Hi everyone, and welcome back. In previous lessons, we have been discussing resiliency, stress, development, emotions, confidence, and time management. And in our previous lesson, we talked about communication. For those of you who have not had a chance to tune in, I strongly suggest that you go back and check out those lessons. If you are tuning in for the first time, my name is Lauren. I work for a group called Compass Mark in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We provide a program called Leaders of Future Generations to a few schools in our area. So that is where these lessons are derived from. Okay, so today's lesson is a continuation on what we talked in our previous lesson about, which was communication. Today we will be talking about and exploring communication styles. But first, our quote of the day comes from Eleanor Roosevelt. Eleanor said, "Nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent." Okay, we'll come back to that. So first I want to review what we talked about last time about communication. So a communication is an understanding between a speaker and a listener when we receive and send messages. So in order for there to be a communication, both sides have to understand each other. If a message is just put out there and nobody receives it, nobody takes it in, then it wasn't actually communication. Okay, so as a speaker, we use our words, our tone of voice, and our body language to send messages. And as a listener, we must make sure that we show the speaker that we're paying attention to them, that we're listening through our body language, some nonverbal signs, maybe nodding your head, leading in to the person. But we must also pay close attention, avoid distractions, and respond with questions once the speaker is finished to show that we really paid attention and that we are invested in what the person is talking about. Okay, so we understand that it's very important to send and receive messages in a clear and concise way to make sure that our messages are not confused and that we don't have some kind of miscommunication going on. But today we're going to take that a step further and explore what we call communication styles. So a communication style is an approach that you use these tools to do. So there are 3 different communication styles. There's passive, aggressive, and assertive. As I'm explaining these, you might find that you identify with one of them, and that's fine, but you also might find that you use all 3 of these styles at different times and in different ways. It's important to understand what style you tend to use more often, and if that is or is not the most effective way to get what you want and be respected as an individual and as a leader. So first, we're going to talk about a passive communication style. So passive communicators tend to be shy and nervous. They don't speak up a lot. They might not raise their hand as much in class, and they tend to speak pretty quietly. Passive speakers tend to avoid eye contact. They have a timid body language, so that means maybe they slump their shoulders or they try to make themselves as small as possible. Because of this communication style, these speakers tend not to stand up for themselves very much, and they really don't like confrontation. So when it comes to a conflict or a possible argument with someone, they tend to just let the other person have their way. So for example, if you and I were trying to decide what to eat for dinner tonight, because everything I talk about relates back to food, and I was a passive speaker, then I would probably just let you choose whatever you want. I'd be like, oh, whatever you want is fine. I don't care. Go for it. And, that's fine in situations like that. It's not the biggest deal. But when we think about other times in our lives where using a more confident approach would get us what we want or what we deserve, if we go at it with a very timid, nervous communication style, we might not get what we want. And sometimes passive communicators actually get taken advantage of or walked on because people just sort of know that they're a pushover and will let them get their way. Okay, so you have to be careful if you are a passive communicator, you tend to use passive communication styles, that sometimes that's not the most effective way to get what you want, okay? On the flip end of that would be the aggressive communication style. Aggressive communicators tend to be rude, loud, rough, yeah, like that, mean, sometimes controlling and demanding. They use very intimidating body language, so their shoulders might always be back, maybe very tense muscles at times, trying to be controlling in not just a verbal way, but also a nonverbal way with their body language. They might use glaring eye contact. They tend to be very outspoken, sometimes even out of turn, such as calling out in class or speaking out in times when they really shouldn't and it's not appropriate. They usually like to act out and get attention. And sometimes if this kind of communication style continues on for long enough, these communicators might turn into or be seen as bullies by using violent behavior, or they might be seen as like a class clown, someone who is constantly trying to bend the rules and take that kind of attention onto themselves. Okay, this is because their aggressive style makes them want to be heard as much as possible, and they're willing to be forceful if necessary. So when deciding on what to eat for dinner tonight, if I was an aggressive speaker, I would demand my way, and I probably wouldn't even bother asking what you wanted. I would say something like, well, we're getting pizza because I want pizza. Aggressive speakers tend to lose friends and respect from teachers because of their rude behavior. So even if right now it kind of seems like using that type of communication in your life would help you get what you want by being really aggressive and rude or outspoken or demanding, trust me, it does not work forever, okay? And eventually people are going to wise up and not want to be around someone who treats them that way. So the third communication style is called assertive. An assertive speaker stands up for what they want, but they do it in a respectful way. They respect the needs and wants of other people, but they also have self-respect and know what they deserve as well. They use a very firm and clear voice, but they aren't yelling. They use direct eye contact and confident body language. So they too might have their shoulders back, their head held high, but they're not doing it in a way to try to manipulate or intimidate the other people. They're doing it in a way that demands respect for themselves. Assertive speakers will work to solve conflicts with other people by hearing the other person's side and also by speaking up for their side. The biggest aspect of being an assertive speaker is confidence. Being confident in what they want, but also who they are. And assertive speakers tend to get what they want and deserve in life because they aren't afraid to ask for it. And when they do, they ask for it in a very respectful way. So if we were trying to decide what to eat for dinner tonight, as an assertive speaker, I would ask what you want, and then I would share what I want, and we'd find a compromise together. So let's think of it this way. Let's say I failed my English test, and I want to go ask my teacher if I can do a retake, because I just really feel like something got in my way and I wasn't able to give it my best effort. If I were a passive speaker, I might go to my teacher like this. Excuse me, Mr. Smith, I was wondering, I didn't do very well, and I would like to, I'd like to get a retake if you think that's possible. Do you think I could do that? Can I? Now, how do you think Mr. Smith would respond? Do you think he would say yes? There's a chance he might take pity on me and notice how nervous I am and say yes to me. But if I can't believe in myself enough to assertively and confidently approach my teacher, why should he believe in me in that kind of way? Why should he give me the chance to retake a test if I can't confidently ask for it? Let's say I go to Mr. Smith like this. Hey, teach, I tried hard on this and you failed me anyway. I want a retake. Give me one now. Do you think I'm going to get a retake? I don't think so. No way. And I'd probably get detention or something in the process, because as we all know, that's a very rude way to talk to a teacher or anyone in your life. So if I go at it with this very demanding presence, I might think, oh, I'm going to like intimidate him into giving me a retake, but really I'm just going to get in trouble. Now let's say I go to Mr. Smith and I say, excuse me, Mr. Smith, do you have a moment? Thank you. I know that I didn't do very well on this last exam, and I really did try my hardest. But see, I've been trying to balance all of my extracurricular activities, and I didn't have enough time to spend on studying. However, I am working to get my time management under control, so this doesn't happen again. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind letting me retake the test. Do you think he might let me retake it this time? I think there's at least a better chance this time than the other two, because I was using my communication skills in a very respectful way. I wasn't being demanding and I wasn't nervous. I was clear and confident in my delivery. So assertive communication is very important to build on, especially as you experience situations like applying to college or interviewing for a job. Even bullying and peer pressure situations require us to use confident and clear language and communication, which we'll talk on more in a later lesson when we focus on bullying. So to test which kind of speaker you are, I have a kind of fun scenario for you to think about at home. So let's say we go to a restaurant and we order some hamburgers. And you tell the waitress that you don't want any onions. You're not allergic, you just don't like them, okay? The waitress brings the food over and guess what? Yours is covered in onions. Would you A, take them off and eat the burger? B, ask the waitress to make you a new one? Or C, throw the onions on the table and refuse to leave a good tip? Now think about it. Which one would you do? If you chose A, although it seems nice to just take them off and eat the burger, and honestly, that's probably what a lot of people will do in that situation because it's not really the biggest deal, that's more of a passive communication style because you're not standing up for what you asked for. If you politely and respectfully ask the waitress to make you a new one, which was option B, then you're showing assertive communication, meaning you are standing up for what you deserve and you're doing it in a respectful way. If you chose to throw the onions on the table and not give the waitress a good tip, then you are being a little more aggressive, rude, a little more outspoken, and demanding. So like I said before, sometimes we use all three of these styles, but in different situations. And it's okay to figure out if there's a time when using a passive communication style would be best, or maybe a time when being aggressive is necessary. But all in all, using an assertive communication style of being confident and respectful is going to get you further in life in a lot of situations. I like to usually ask the class what they think they are. And I usually get a lot of assertive hands up, which is fine. We all like to think that we are very assertive. But the truth is that most kids and teenagers are passive. And that's okay. You're trying to figure out your communication skills. You're trying to learn that you can speak up for yourself as long as you do it respectfully. But at this time, you might feel a little more passive, a little more aware of everyone else around you and these pressures that you're feeling socially and academically. And because of that, it might make you become a little more shy and a little more nervous and careful. But right now, that's okay because you are still figuring things out. As you mature and grow, it's important for you to practice assertive communication for a lot of situations like the ones I mentioned earlier, job interviews and getting into college and all kinds of things that are going to require you to show how confident you can be. But right now, it's okay if you're kind of more in that passive area. If you're more aggressive, like I said before, that style tends to cause more problems than the other ones as you grow and mature. If you continue to use that sort of style where you're more demanding, kind of like deciding things for your friends or being rude or just trying to be a class clown or get that kind of attention from people, eventually people might not want to hang out with you as much because you're not really including them in what's happening. You're not really showing them respect. So just be aware if you tend to use more aggressive communication that maybe you should start to work on that. So how does this affect us as leaders? Well, I don't know about you, but if I had an aggressive leader, I wouldn't really want to follow them. I would feel very disrespected and like they didn't deserve my time because they weren't treating me with respect. If I had a passive leader, I might question their ability to lead because they seem shy and nervous and not very sure of themselves. And they wouldn't really speak up for themselves. So I would wonder what gave them that position and if they're really someone that I should be following. So the best communication style as a leader would absolutely be to be assertive. Assertive communication skills of being firm and clear with your voice, using confident body language, especially when you're in front of that group, making good eye contact and being respectful of others while still standing up for what you believe in and your own opinions. That's going to help you be a very effective leader, and it will actually make you someone that people want to follow. Sometimes when we hear about people being assertive and being confident and being outspoken, we take it as a negative thing. We think that they are being bossy or demanding. But like I said, as long as you did it in a respectful way, it's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to voice your opinion in that way. Okay, as long as we don't cross over into the aggressive line of things. So let's take a look at that quote again from Eleanor Roosevelt. Nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. Okay. Eleanor is reminding us that we have control over how we react to others and how we communicate. Even when others try to force us into being passive, we have the right to choose how we react to them. We have that capability within us. So if we choose to stay respectful and stand up for ourselves, then we're using assertive communication, and they can't make us feel inferior. So here's a few discussion questions for you at home. Number 1, what style are you, and how do you think it impacts you as a communicator? So I want you to try to evaluate yourself. Would you consider yourself a passive, assertive, or aggressive speaker? And how do you think that impacts you as a communicator? Number 2, how do you respond to passive or aggressive speakers? So how do you respond when you come across someone who is being aggressive with you or being passive? And number 3, how can you use assertive communication to be a better leader? Okay, so today's at-home activity, it's a pretty simple one. I want you to watch a TV show or a movie, or if you're not a TV person and you like to read, I want you to find some kind of art medium where there are people and characters involved, and I want you to identify each of these styles in someone. So try to point out for yourself someone who's using passive communication, someone who's using aggressive, and someone who's using assertive communication. Okay, and it could also be the same character who uses the different styles in different times throughout the show or the movie. Okay, I would love it if you would comment below with the movie or TV show or book of your choice that you found these characters from. I think that would be really, really great, or share it with someone special or someone that you think would love to talk about this as well. All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson on communication styles. I hope you take into account what you might use more often and what you think would help you be more effective as an individual and as a leader. Well, I hope you all are well and safe, and I hope to see you soon.